So we have become a family that goes on cruises. It was never our thing. And if you're a longtime listener, I'll give the quick version of this so you don't say, oh, I've heard Clark talk about that. But our son, when he was a young elementary school kid, got all caught up in the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. Don't know what year that was. Was that, Chris, if you could tell me what year that 100th anniversary was. May have been 2012. Anyway, you never know what goes through a young person's mind. You'd think that seeing that ship sink and all those people dying and all that, that it would lead to an aversion to going on cruises. It was 2012. Thank you.
It was.
But he, in that young child's mind, became obsessed with going on a cruise. And I was like, we don't do that. We don't go on cruises. And so he was telling his teacher, I think he was a kindergartner at the time. Yeah, kindergarten. He was telling his teacher about this, that he really wanted to go on a cruise. And his teacher told him, write your dad a letter. And she obviously helped him with the letter. She let us know a letter was coming from our son. And so he wrote all the reasons why we should take him on a cruise. And the last one was, Dad, so I can spend more time with you.
I mean, what are you going to say to that?
I mean, a 5-year-old learning, no, he was 6. 6-year-old learning how to turn the screws.
Wow.
So
impressive.
Yeah. So I found the shortest cruise I could get, which was a 3-night cruise, thinking, oh, he'll do this, everything will be fine. He loved it and became even more obsessed with cruises. And so vacation after vacation after vacation, we've gone on cruises. And now Lane and I have actually learned to adapt and enjoy them. So we're going on another family cruise in a few weeks, and we tend to go once a year on a cruise. And you learn how the game is played. Now our son has been on 17 cruises, by the way.
Oh, my goodness.
So there were years we were doing 2 in a year. That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot of cruises.
Yeah, so, I mean, we got the drill. We understand. We've been on multiple cruise lines, got the whole thing. So the cruise lines had near-death experiences financially from the COVID. They're all pretty much weak-kneed from that. They're having a rough time. But at the same time, when people shop for cruises, they shop based on the headline price. Cruise lines know that. And they'll say, you book these next 72 hours, you got a 30% discount, and your second person gets a 50% discount, and the third person, we're paying them to go on the ship, blah, blah, blah. And then what do? While you're busy booking, they grab your wallet. They're really good pickpockets. Because what you got to be really aware of is the fees. And the cruise lines have been boosting all kinds of fees. And so when you're shopping for a cruise, it's just like I talk about with airlines, except a little more complicated. And that is, you got to know what you're really going to pay, not what the airline says the ticket's going to be, and then you add on the baggage fee and the seat assignment fee and the breathing fee and the, oh, you're flying on Thursday fee and all that. The cruise lines have taken that from the airlines and they've amped it up. And recently, they've all decided to raise daily service fees that you pay. And then things that were free are now paid for and blah, blah, blah. So when you're trying to compare with the 3 majors, I mean, most cruise cabins in the world are controlled by 3 corporate entities. Carnival, which owns multiple brands, Royal Caribbean, which owns multiple brands, and then the third player is smaller but owns several brands, NCL or Norwegian. And each of their brands treat it differently. Like with Royal Caribbean, if you look at Celebrity, a lot of the things that you might be junk feed on Royal, you're not junk feed on Celebrity. The cabin will cost more up front, but then there's not nearly as many add-ons. So when you're shopping for cruises, you got to really pay attention to not just they're selling, a balcony cabin for blah, blah, blah. Right now, if you book these next 48 hours. Gosh, this sounds a lot like what we were talking about earlier with the home improvement, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Same kind of hurry, 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 hurry. Okay. Go through and look at everything else you're going to have to pay. Figure out the total cost of that cruise. And let's face the facts, okay? A lot of times we don't want to think about that because we're excited about taking the trip and we don't really want to think about the total cost. But if that total cost would cause your wallet indigestion later, I want you to know everything extra you're going to have to pay during that trip. For people who consume alcohol, which for me, fortunately, is not a factor because alcohol is expensive. Anyway, you want to pay close attention if you are a drinker, what it's going to cost, and be very wary of the alcoholic drink packages that the cruise lines sell, because you may find that you need to consume as many as 8 to 12 drinks a day to break even on the cost of an alcohol package. And gosh, if you can drink that many drinks a day, you're not going to remember anything from the trip, would you?
I wouldn't think so.
All right, so having said that, where do you find the bargains? It's not a where, it's a when. The calendar is your friend or your enemy with cruises. 52 weeks a year, they got to get revenue from those ships. Certain weeks, as you would know, are super surcharged. Spring break weeks, Christmas, New Year's weeks, those 2 weeks around Christmas, New Year's, ultra expensive. Summertime when kids are out from school, much more expensive. But then there are weeks that are really, really soft. September usually, very inexpensive. January, right in the midst of winter. People have spent all their money at Christmas. Kids are back in school. January in midwinter, if you live in a cold climate, could be a really great time to go on a cruise. The calendar is your friend, as well as the port you depart from. The port can have a huge impact. You can be in the same class of ship on the same cruise line, and a sailing on a particular date, for whatever reason, could be very, very weak out of one port versus the same class ship out of another port that could be very heavily booked. And the cruise lines use dynamic demand pricing. The price differences can be quite large. We have a simple guide to where to look for a deal on a cruise on Clark.com. It's also really great if you're an experienced cruise passenger. You can just use the discount sites to shop for deals. If you're an inexperienced cruise passenger, use a person who is an experienced cruise agent. What they know will help you avoid so many learning curve issues that you may not know otherwise. And can you believe I talked that much about cruises? Because you go back with me to when I said, what's that word we should never use?
Never.
I will never go on a cruise again. And now
17 later.
Yeah.